Good stuff. So you're going to show us, you're whiteboarding out something, yeah?
Yeah,
yes, I think we've got it. Production, do we have his pictures ready?
Yeah, they took pictures of it.
I came woefully unprepared for everybody.
We've got some
on
pictures.
the Twitch
I came in
stream.
early to keep everybody, that's what I was trying to get.
But did we get a full Zack intro?
We
I
only
don't
got
think.
one of your pictures.
Okay.
He took
That's
all
fine.
three of
That's
them.
fine.
Okay. Well, I will try to get it here.
Yeah, your
It's not- yeah, it's
coworker
fine.
took-
We got 10 minutes anyways.
Yeah.
But we didn't get a full
No,
Zack
you've
Butcher
got 10
intro.
minutes till you're done.
I know, right? Yeah, so we got to go fast
Yeah,
so we can.
intro.
Yeah. You want to intro yourself?
Cool. Yeah. So hey, I'm Zack. I get to do. I guess let me back up a little bit. So used to work for Google. I worked in Google Cloud for about 3.5 years. And more than I keep saying a year and a half ago. Now it keeps getting longer. We're actually coming up on 2 years pretty soon.
I used to say I worked at a company called whatever my company name was because no one had ever heard of it. And when I moved to IBM, I kept the habit. I'm like, I work at a company called IBM. People are like, are you just being a jerk right now?
I've not heard of that one. What's
Have you heard of that? I don't know.
So I worked at Google for 3.5 years. The last year and a half of my time at Google, I heard about this team from Doug Reed. You had Sven on earlier, and then Jasmine Jaksic, who's the program manager for Istio at Google, who Sven and Jasmine don't get enough, and Doug don't get enough credit publicly in the community. They're awesome. They do so much good stuff. And so I talked with them, and they said, hey, I'd been on my team for about 2 years. They said, hey, you should come join this new thing that we have. We're starting this new Istio thing. It's really cool. Come check it out. I went and checked it out and said, hey, this is really cool. I want to work on this. So that was back in December of 2016.
Wow, a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, so a while ago, right? So it gets close. Yeah, it's almost 2 years now, right? And then, about 6 months later, Istio 0.1 came out.
Right.
And that was awesome and exciting. And then it's been kind of a pretty wild ride since then. We've met in the context of me going and kind of getting to talk some about Istio.
Yeah, you've been sort of one of the people, but early on the curve of the Istio talk circuit thing.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I'm just a conference rat anyways, so.
Well, I cheated because I started working on it before people knew it existed.
Yeah. And
so that way, gave me a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah, totally.
On that front. But recently, about 5 months ago now, I guess, I left Google with the original product manager that started working on Istio, Varun. And we're now kind of building a company that's building on top of Istio.
Awesome.
And so we're pretty excited. It's so pretty, I believe whole hog that Istio is kind of is the right set of abstractions that solve very specific customer pain points.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense
Well,
at
that's
30,000 feet
also
anyways,
strange.
right? Like you're gonna have a kind of an API that's a central API that accepts configuration parameters. You're gonna have a bunch of things that just manipulate the end piece node. And we're going to shove auth in there. We're going to shove traffic control in there.
Exactly.
It's like we can come up with more things to shove into that unit of configuration all day.
Yep. Yeah, it's incredibly valuable. Ooh, we have pictures. Nice.
Oh, okay.
So what I was going to talk about, we don't have a ton of time now. What I was going to kind of talk about.
We have 11 minutes. We've got some time.
Okay, we do have some time. Nice. Is some of the multi-cluster, some of the different ways that we can do multi-cluster in Istio.
It's a pretty hot topic.
Yes, yeah. So it's a hot topic. It's being actively debated. So Greg and Isaiah mentioned the working groups. If things like cross-cluster networking are interesting to you, then come join the networking working group. We just met yesterday and had a long, really good discussion about some cross-cluster stuff, about some new config changes that we'll be making. But that's a great place to go if that kind of thing is interesting to you. But this is kind of a hot topic. So Istio, the core value.
Just to ask, are you submitting user stories there, or do you kind of only want your network wizards in that meeting?
So both are really valuable.
Okay.
Right. So it's the discussion is very technical, right? So we do get into kind of the nuts and bolts of we have this use case, how are we actually going to solve it? And that is pretty low level. But a lot of those use cases are actually driven by direct user feedback. And so.
Yeah, because you don't want to build in a vacuum of like.
Exactly.
Here's a problem that I don't have that I found a cool solution for. Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of times that means that we wind up discussing issues that users filed or or we'll talk with product managers, right? So a couple of the product managers from different companies that are involved in this space, Shannon from Pivotal you had earlier, for example, some of the Google PMs, those kinds of things come up and are kind of the do what PMs do, which is being a user advocate, right?
Right.
They are user advocates in the room. And so yes, so that meeting might be a little bit intimidating if you're just kind of starting to use Istio because it does get pretty into the weeds. But I think it is valuable and everybody is welcome to come join, right? So one of the hot topics right now is multi-clustered Istio, right? So this kind of fundamental value proposition that Istio gives is abstracting away networking from your applications. And so if I've pulled away networking, one of the big advantages is I don't have to worry about where the things that I'm trying to talk to run.
Right.
And so what this means is that you have kind of the primitives in place to start to be able to
There's a conversation about service discovery,
Yes.
right, which enables speed to deploy and safety and getting all this configuration out of the app.
Yes.
But it opens the door up to say, like, can we paper over locality?
Yes, exactly. And that's what really gets interesting to me is, and this is, to be clear, where I think that Istio's biggest value proposition is. I think that there's a lot of people that are really, really interested in the telemetry and in policy and that kind of thing, and I think that those are very compelling.
Especially as an operator of, like, I have to keep this running every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I actually think that Istio's biggest value proposition to the larger IT space actually doesn't start with Kubernetes and Kubernetes clusters and all that. I think actually Istio provides the most value in these non-Kubernetes environments and helping you bridge the gap and to get into there. Because at least one of the big challenges does wind up being locality and networking. And there are customers that I talk to where it's like, hey, we want to start using cloud. Step 0 is we talk to the security team and we get a direct connect and a VPN to the cloud and call me back in 8 months.
Yeah.
After I've gotten that approved and everything, right?
Yeah.
So Istio's
I'm allowed to put the bleeding edge, most important app to be built tomorrow into the cloud, but,
Yes, but brownfield
everything
stays.
else is, well, it's going to be there for a while.
Exactly. For probably another decade,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
At least. And so I think this is actually where Istio provides a huge amount of value. You can put the sidecar beside these legacy workloads, you can elevate them into the mesh, and you can take advantage of this, just the things I talked about earlier, telemetry, policy, those things, which are generally valuable for all applications. But you can, in particular, take advantage of the way that Istio abstracts away networking to bridge, to effectively to your applications build what looks like one nice big flat network across clusters.
Yeah, I'm not sure
So
which
if we-
diagram it is, but you're right that the essential architecture that you're going to a proxy, and that proxy is working to another proxy, which will
Yes.
eventually deliver it.
Yep.
Like that gives you
A
one
huge
would
amount
think
of
enough building blocks there to
Yes.
say like, okay, well this, because for those of you who don't know, Twitch audience, we don't exactly know who you are. But if you've worked in a large IT enterprise, somebody gave me this analogy. He basically said, like, look, when I was a chef, I used to hate cooking at home. And what he said is when I cook at home, I've got 3 electric burners and they all suck, and I've got bad knives and blah, blah. When I cook at work, everything is stainless steel, everything is perfect. I have a range that will be the exact same temperature and it's 8 feet square. I have the best tools in the block. Software is the opposite of that. Like some of us are lucky enough to work at really cool companies, but most people, especially in the IT space, they have the opposite of that. When they go to work, they have to deal with these things that are assigned to them, that are legacy, that we've already bought, and you have all these constraints, and then they go home and they work in their spare time, and they can use Git, they can use an agile methodology if that's what they want.
Yep.
They can use the JavaScript framework that they chose or whatever. In IT, in large companies, there are bizarre constraints that you can't conceive of. Like, oh, this network can't talk to that network except on these 3 ports and submit a ticket.
Yep.
And if Istio and the Envoy proxy system can
Yep.
provide enough building blocks to make, functional and reliable bridges between some of those network separations that network administrators have been imposing on people for years, then that would be like a huge win for like everybody.
Yes. And one of the big things that I want to see happen, and I think will happen in industry over time as well, is a fundamental shift in what we trust. So today we build trust around networks and network spaces. Sorry, we're not really talking to what's on the picture here, but this is interesting to me at least.
Yeah, we're just,
So like today, access is authenticated, right? Access is permission, right? In networking, if you can reach it, reachability is
The future
permission.
is not that. The
Exactly.
future's here.
But
It's
that
just
is
not
what
evenly
today.
distributed.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? If you come from the right side or range, if you're from my local network, you can access this thing and use it, and I trust you because of your network identity, because of the IP address that you have. That's not actually good enough.
No.
So identity is really the key. I said earlier that the communication or abstracting the network is Istio's key value proposition. That's actually not true. I lied. It's identity, because we use identity to do communication. Identity is the first order thing that you need, and once you know who you're talking to and who you are, then you can have communication. Because we can't really have communication before then. Otherwise, it's meaningless.
Yeah. Right. It'll be a bigger problem. It'll be more network problems. There'll be more security problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to have that first order identification.
Well, even then, like, who are you even talking to? That's the vital. Like, you need to know who, and if you can't trust the network address because pods are ephemeral and they move around and they have different IP addresses,
You need something.
You need something else, right? And so that's really, I think, and so being able to take these concepts, take them into the brownfield, and put Envoy sidecars there, get short-term benefit in the form of telemetry, policy, those things. But in the longer term, that actually can kind of help enable your move out of on-prem clusters, out of cloud that you're running yourself, and into public clouds or some mix thereof. And your applications don't have to be as aware of where, because we can just hide that communication.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see because one of the constraints that seems to be true right now is that because we haven't really gotten out of the cluster that often, we don't even have like a syntax to say like, well, the cost of this link is X.
Yep.
Once we start getting things where there's, it always turns into like the BGP conversation. Like we can get anywhere on multiple routes, but which one do we take, and what are the constraints on that?
So a general pattern, my favorite way to describe Istio actually, and this is a general pattern that I think is a valuable way to view the project. In the late 70s, early 80s, we were building applications. We were starting to build the first applications that were talking to each other on remote machines, right? We were starting to build the first networks, and these were these very kind of bespoke, handcrafted things, and our applications built in the idea of addressing and fragmentation and flow control and all of that stuff. Discovery is a big one, right? Discovery, routing, and we extracted that out of our applications, and we put it into this nice interface with well-defined APIs and a nice
7
model
layers.
for thinking about it, the OSI model,
Yeah.
right? So we extracted out what we now call the OSI networking model.
Yep.
And that is ubiquitous, right? It doesn't matter if you're on Linux
Now that
or
the
on
war
Windows.
is over, yes, it's ubiquitous.
Yes.
Go back to like 1997.
Well, sure, exactly. And then we immediately turned around in our applications, now that we have the nice IP TCP stack to work with, we immediately turned around and started implementing the exact same logic again in our applications, but at a higher layer, right? So before we were doing it the bits and bytes on the network, now we're actually doing it with the requests and responses that our applications send. Hey, you have to solve discovery. You have to solve routing. You have to solve this notion of retry. TCP does retry, right?
Yeah.
But I have to do it in my application myself. We're in this exact same phase, but it's just at a higher level.
Or like, let's take HTTP and then put a streaming protocol through it. It's like,
yeah, well, actually, gRPC is all H2. HTTP 2 does that nicely, but HTTP 1 no. Yeah. Right, but the general idea is that Istio is pulling out this common logic. So before we had the network stack that we pulled out of our applications, Istio is actually tackling a very similar problem, and it's actually, I would argue, identically the same problems, just at the application layer as opposed to the network layer.
I like that. So like,
and
whereas when I write an application now, I can just basically be like, I need a TCP socket to this person. Figure it out.
And it just works.
You're saying maybe in the future applications will be like, I need same thing. I need a TCP socket to that person, or an HTTP connection to that person, or a gRPC connection to that person. And Istio will do like retry. Who's
and
the right
that
person to talk to?
changes, right? That person is no longer some IP address.
It's an ephemeral idea anyway.
It is some global name that I can address, and there's some real workload somewhere that implements it. But my application doesn't care to consume it, and I know that I'll get there reliably. I know that Istio, for example, can take care of the secrets that are required to talk to it, right? This is all stuff that we want to extract away and hide away from applications, right? Because it's not inherent to the business that you're doing, right? That's the whole goal. That's why like serverless has so much hype and that kind of thing, is because it's the promise that it lets you focus on the business logic that your application is intending to solve and not all these other ancillary concerns, right? That's the fundamental promise of infrastructure projects in general. And so it's exciting to see at least some of this actually land, and what I hope is like a real kind of tangible way.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Zach. That's a pretty good note to end on. We're gonna take.
Well, I show up and I listen to the conversation stuff.
Well, Lisa's
I even brought
here.
the balloons.
Oh, she did.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I did. I know. And as they're getting
need
lower
to-
and lower, I mean that's going to happen naturally.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us, Zach.
Yeah, of
Zach's
course. Thanks for having me.
Twitter's in the thing. One of the top influencers to follow. Hashtag shoot me for that line. We're going to be back in one quick minute with our guest, Ray. And stay with us. This is Istio Celebration Twitch stream. Thank you.
Awesome.